Hi everybody, it's Josh with Talk About Trek, and we're back again to talk about another great TNG book, Blaze of Glory by Simon Hawke. So this is number 34 in the TNG numbered series. I started reading this on the 20th and finished it up last night, and it is a solid 277 pages of kind of wacky fun, I guess I should say. Um, an interesting story, but let's kind of dive into the book itself here. So, Blaze of Glory, as you can see, number 34, and it says here on the cover, a renegade ship's captain threatens the USS Enterprise and the Federation. Right? And then from the back, the USS Enterprise is assigned to the planet Catral, a planet just coming out from under the heel of barbarous suppression. When the planet's newly emerging freedom is threatened by a by a ruse ship, not a rogue ship. It's a ruse ship attacking the Federation shipping. Captain Jean-Luc Picard and his crew put their lives on the line to protect Catral from the raids, but the planet itself holds a deadly secret, one that could lead to a resurgence of the despotic cruelty they have suffered for centuries. With time running out, Captain Picard must see his way past a maze of deadly deception with billions of lives hanging in the balance. It's actually not too bad of a back cover, even though that's the first time in a long time I can remember finding an actual misprint on a back cover. But there we go. Let's point it out. It's a Rouge ship. The ship is not Rouge. As you can see, the ship is a Constellation class. So kind of an interesting story there where you have basically like a pirate who has this kind of souped up, outfitted Constellation class ship and is causing trouble out there in the Federation shipping lanes. And that's like the basic premise of the story. Before I get into, I don't want to forget either, too. I always want to talk about the cover of the book from here on out. I don't want to forget that because I often overlook. Sometimes these covers are really well done. I think this is a pretty good one, too. A nice little shot of Picard and Data there. I don't know why he chose Data for the cover, but I think sometimes they're not given the full information when the artist does this. Anyway, the artist here is the late, great Keith Birdsong, who did this, and also did, as I was looking this up, so many other covers as well. Must be one of kind of the main players at that time for doing these. Even the last book I read, Mosaic, he did the cover for that. So just excellent work there, and very nice little Constellation class. So a good cover, kind of draws you in. You're like, what's going on here? What's going on? Why is there a Constellation class? But overall, it's kind of a strange story. It seems like the crew kind of always has the one up on the other on the bad guy. But that's kind of good though. You kind of like that. So, but it's fun and it carries along at a good pace. Definitely a lot of action, and definitely some new and different things that I've kind of not read in a Star Trek novel before. One of being this Cybrid character who's kind of a cloned, cybernetically enhanced human. So some interesting things there, but I would definitely recommend it if you're looking just for some kind of easy fun. And Captain Picard has some nice kind of scenes of basically outwitting the enemy and just being one step ahead, which is great. So, yeah, very fun book. 8 out of 10 for me, I guess. And Simon Hawke also wrote The Romulan Prize, which I read a few months ago, which was also fun. So, and both stories do feature a little bit of Romulan action. So, you can look forward to that as well, too. So, now, before we, that's the end of the spoiler-free section. Now we're just going to get a little bit crazy with it. And I kind of got crazy with my notes, too. So, yeah. They're all over the place. I can read that. But anyway, the story begins with the Enterprise being called to Starbase 37 out near the neutral zone in the Catrali sector. And the Catrali have 5 planets, and they're a new entrant into the Federation. So they don't exactly know their mission, but they are being called to Starbase 37 at the behest of Captain... I wrote it down here. Yes, Captain Ivan Grozanoff, and he is one of Picard's kind of old classmates who was maybe a year or two ahead of him. And he's called him there, but they don't have any idea why they're going there. So once they get to the starbase, they're informed of the issue, and the issue is that Constellation class ship, captained by Captain Blaze. And the ship is called the Glory, so the Blaze of Glory. Alright, so when I was first reading it, I'm like, alright, that's a little bit silly. But you just got to give it some time. So Captain Blaze has a refitted Constitution class ship, which is wreaking havoc on the Federation shipping lanes, and the Federation has, or Captain Grozanoff has called in for assistance. And he specifically requested Picard because he's like his old friend, and he knows he can help him out with this situation. So he kind of gives him the scoop on what's been going on, and it goes deeper than just a privateer, is what they're calling him, like a kind of a pirate of space. But they believe that he is being backed by the current ruler of the planet, who is something, Jadran. Jadran has taken over recently from his father, who was the big kind of war hero who led him out of the last terrible part in their history. As he got older, he passed things on to his son, but General Hudrun was the previous ruler, but Jadran is a little shady, and he may be doing something involving the Romulans, which is what the reason why Captain Grozanoff has called in Picard here. So they meet with a new character at that time, who's the head of the Starbase Security, Lieutenant Angela Dorn, and she is going to be working with the Enterprise crew in figuring this out. So Picard sets about his plan. And that's one of the really fun things about this book, is that all the characters kind of go into detail about what they plan to do. And like you get this kind of very long, drawn out, well, like Picard's like, okay, here's the idea. We're going to do this. We're going to send a team down to Nutran. We're going to send a secret team down to Detrol. They're going to be disguised as spacers, recently disgraced spacers, hopefully to learn some more information about what's going on. And then the other team will be kind of like the upfront Starfleet team. So they get the approval of the local leader, Jadran, just to make sure that he's down with everything. And he kind of has no choice but to approve him investigating this privateer and all that. So there you have it set up. So now you have the secret mission to the spacer land or whatever. There's like basically there's a port there, and it's a pretty rough port, and in this rough port there's this district. You get this all the time in these kind of books and shows and things, but you know the district. But they have a mission there, and they're going to send Riker, LaForge, and Lieutenant Dorn down. But don't worry, they're going to give him some disguises. Riker has combed his hair the other way, and he looks a little unkempt. And they give him some names. And so instead of Riker, he's Stryker, and LaForge is LeBeau, and Dorn is Thorn. And I was thinking at this point, like, all right, if this Captain Blaze is at all as smart as he makes himself out to be, obviously he would recognize and see through this ploy. Stay tuned, and we'll see if he does see through this ploy. But anyway, they beam down to the rough port in the district. Picard, on the other hand, is on his way, and he meets with where the other team was going, the governor of that area. And this is this kind of huge, gross and unkempt guy who just like eats all the time. And this is who is this guy? Tigraine. All right, and Tigraine is on the other planet, Drawl or whatever, and he is the governor there. So Picard has to go meet with him so he can get permission to talk to General Hudrun. So, see, Picard's already all laid this out. General Hudrun, he's the only one... Wait, no. Colonel Zagral, alright? See, he wants to talk to General Hudrun, but you can't talk to General Hudrun unless you get his best buddy, Colonel Zagral. So Picard is getting over here to get Colonel Zagral, alright? So that's his plan here. He gets there just in time, right before the Romulans come to assassinate him. And they basically beam out like right at the last moment. And he is rescued. So now they know that the Romulans are there. The game is afoot. So okay, so back on I think we're back on the Tron. But anyway, Stryker, LeBeau, and Thorne. Their secret mission is underway, and they're going through this kind of seedy district down there to find some more information. And that's when they run into this other very strange new character. Her name is Katana, and she is a cybrid. And I should have actually saved the spot where they meet her, and it describes her, because it was just kind of so strange. And here we go. Just kind of a very strange, something I've not seen before in anyway, I probably won't find the exact. I'll just do my best. But a cybrid is this basically a cloned humanoid who was then cybernetically enhanced. Cybernetic, like skull plate. Picture maybe I was picturing kind of like Nebula, kind of from Guardians of the Galaxy. But then they have a cybernetic arm with needle fingers, where they can poke needles out of their fingers, and if they want, they can dope you up if you want like Ferengi cocaine or like Andorian whatever. They can poke you full of that. They can do all that. They have all of the space drugs, and then they also have like a tonic of things just to like make you crazy. Like other kind of like so they could. They're also like very good as like weapons and fighters because of this. So you meet Katana, this cybrid, who meets up with them there, suspiciously kind of. But then when they turn down her wares, they go about and she directs them to the Flying Dutchman, the local bar they would want to go to. On their way almost to the Dutchman, of course, what do they run into? A gang of thugs. And who comes to help them? Katana. So, like, it was so obviously a setup. I feel like, how did either side fall into this trap that they're falling into here? But anyway, Katana saves them from the people and gains the trust of Stryker, LeBeau, and Thorne. And they're able to head towards the Flying Dutchman. And there was actually a fairly kind of funny scene, and it's his trope. There's basically a CD port trope, where they're approaching the bar, and the Lieutenant Thorne's like, well, I've been in seedy places before, and then she's like, not as places as seedy as this. And then on cue, the little double doors are thrown open as a guy is tossed out of the bar and unceremoniously tossed onto the ground. So I thought that was kind of funny. It's just like the perfect little, trope for this kind of book. So there are some laughs in here as well as just the silliness. They do go into a little bit of more background about these cybrids and how they were created like 60 years ago by this company that was then shut down, and then they've been either like killed or hunted off, and there's just like a few of them left at this point. So they get into the bar where Katana pretty much immediately drugs them all, and they're all knocked out. Right? Like, come on. We all saw that coming. At this point in the story, when things are kind of going sour for the guy there, Tigraine, the big fat guy, he is. Then you get to meet the real, who's really in charge, which is a Romulan tribunal named Kronak, and Kronak has a couple of Romulan squads there on that planet, and they are preparing to head to the next planet, basically, or have been preparing to take out the general. And once they take out General Hadron, they'll be able to see, like, there's this whole intricate web that the Romulans have weaved here, so that they're trying to make it so that no matter what action Picard takes, whether he can't interfere directly with the planet, because then that would violate the Prime Directive, and then if he doesn't do anything, then the planet would still come to the Romulans. So this Kronak has kind of manufactured it so that one way or another, this territory would somehow fall into Romulan hands, and then the neutral zone would kind of be pushed a little bit further into Federation space. So that's the idea. But now Picard is on to the plan, and he knows that they have to get to the next planet quickly. And I left out here, there was actually a space battle when they first came in, where Picard and the Enterprise and Captain Blaze and the Glory, they fought and they battled. And nearly was disabled by the Glory, and just because of like a miss by their gunner, they weren't able to hit where they wanted to. So the Enterprise got some good hits in. They had to go into cloak and disappeared. So the Glory is working to get itself fixed, which is why they have hijacked Stryker, LeBeau, and Thorne, and they need more people on their crew. So at this point in the story too, I thought that Captain Blaze he's a very smart. He's written as a very smart captain. He knows that he's got 3 Starfleet officers, but he doesn't. He actually thinks they're just disgraced spacers. So Riker's plan, kind of just learning more information, falls into getting even more than that. Just getting now, you're like you got the whole thing. Like now you're on board the ship, and this is when he learns about the Romulan connection and that there's currently a Romulan warbird cloaked following the Enterprise back to the other planet. So he realizes what he has to do is get a message out to the Enterprise, no matter the cost. I mean, once he does it, he knows the jig is up. So he, again, this is like a fun part in the book, where he devises this very intricate plan of like minute by minute. You have to do this, LeBeau, and you have to do this, Thorne, and you have to do this, and you have to do that. And each of them has a certain action they have to take once he sends this message so they can all escape. And it's like it's a perfectly well thought out plan, and it would work perfectly down to the T. However, Thorne, or Dorn, it's kind of funny that the author named her, gave her the last name of Dorn, right? I can't think of many other times. Like I've never seen like of a Captain Franks, or maybe there's been a Stewart. I don't know. Anyway, that was kind of funny. But anyway, Dorn at this point reveals her tragic backstory, which was when she was first assigned to this job, she was sent out to fight some cybrids. They cornered them in this warehouse. She freaked out, and she hid in a box for the whole thing. And then she could hear all of her team getting killed around her, to the very last ensign, who pulled or set his phaser to overload, which blew up the 3 cybrids. And then she came out of the box, and then was given credit for that. And she's just kind of never said anything about it, and it's always been with her. And that also gave her terrible claustrophobia. So in her escape attempt to get to where she needed to go in the plan, she was slowed down by that claustrophobia, which slowed LaForge down. He couldn't get out on time. He wouldn't leave without her, of course, which set the whole plan backwards, okay? So now Riker gets down to where he was supposed to go to escape, and he is met up with Katana. And they have this kind of one-sided battle scene where she just beats the hell out of him. And then the rest of the crew is watching, and it gets to the point where she's about to kill him, and that's when Thorne breaks free, because they've already been caught by the rest of the crew, throws herself at Katana, and Katana kills her. And then once Katana does that, she is vaporized by Captain Blaze. So it's like, well, it was got pretty heavy at the end. Like, things got really action heavy, and really just I wanted to keep reading it. I kept going. So that was pretty crazy. And it's at this point kind of like the thing kind of turns. And it's where Captain Blaze offers his help to Riker, because he realizes that he needs to help, because the Romulan warbird is just going to come finish him off anyway, since like his usefulness is done. So he has LaForge going into overdrive with his whole team to bring his ship up to the fastest working order they can, so they can blast in and help the Enterprise at the last moment. So let's go back to the Enterprise, which has made it to the planet, and Picard, at first, he's going to beam down, or the Colonel Zagral wants to beam down with him. Picard says, no, I have to do this myself. This is like the safest, best way for the Federation to do this. So he beams down and requests an audience with the General. And once he gets close enough to the General, he requests a beam up. So he gets beamed up with the General. The General at first is pretty upset, but then he talks to the Colonel, and he's still not believing that his son is like against him like that. So back on the ship. Oh, and also like right at this time, right when they were like right before they beamed up, the General's palace was assaulted by Catrali guards. So like this was the plan in motion of the son assassinating the father. It was beginning to happen. We're gonna need a drink. See, at the end, this book just became very, I don't know, very tight, very fun. And the whole thing, I guess, was, but just the end really kept me going really good. So, uh, anyway, uh, Captain Grozanoff is on the ground with his troops and the palace guard troops, and they're fending off the other ones. And at this point, they don't want anyone to know that Picard has the general on the ship safely, so they keep that a secret. And the assassins all think that they're coming still to get the general who is there in the palace. And it's this point when they enact their kind of final plan, and they go to the bridge and they push off the other two to the side so they're out of the view screen. That's the general and the colonel. And Picard calls Jadran, and he's like, "Hey, we know what's going on. You're trying to assassinate your dad." And then Jadran gives the whole thing away. He's like, "Yeah, I am. He's down there now. He'll be dead soon, and then you're gonna be dead too." So, and then once Hudrun sees that, he's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you've done this to me." So the jig is up, but the Enterprise is still in deep trouble. They have a Romulan warbird to worry about, and Kronak, I think, calls them at that point. He calls them. He gets in contact at that point to kind of put the whole thing in order. He lays it out for Picard, basically, that it's over no matter what you do, whether you interfere, you don't interfere. My strategy is going to win out here. So, and also 2 more Romulan warbirds materialize, and Kronak even gives Picard a chance to lower his shields momentarily, beam up all the people on the planet that were still there, because Kronak wants to get them all at once, and he thinks he's got checkmate. He's got 3 warbirds to 1 Enterprise, and it's done for. What he doesn't anticipate is Geordi LaForge's skill, because the battle begins and the Enterprise is outmatched, but they're holding their own for now. But the Glory flies in, Captain Blaze, Riker at the guns, Geordi making her fly. There's an interesting part where Captain Blaze is like, "Shields up," and Geordi's like, "What shields? We don't have any shields. I did everything I could just to get it here and have us some weapons." But they get there in time, they surprise 1 warbird and blow it up, and then there's a fun little action scene at the end where they work together to destroy the remaining 2 warbirds and save the day. And it's at this point where this is good. So now they're left with the dilemma, right? Because either way, it looks like the Romulans would be able to move in and win here. But Captain Blaze gives them a third option, since he's actually half human, half Catrali. Since he is half human, half Catralis look like Vulcans, basically. So there's nothing like weird pointy ears. But he proposes that he can help General Hadron overthrow Jadran, and then that would be no Federation involvement, and it would be an easy way to wrap things up. So that's exactly what they do, and Picard actually beams down right to Jadran's quarters, like right as everything's going on, to witness all this as a Starfleet observer. So there's some fun Picard moments there too, where he's like talking to Jadran, and basically they bust right in. The palace guards there kind of immediately, I think, changed sides. It didn't seem like there was much of a fight to keep Jadran in power. As soon as they get there, the general he says he wishes that his son would have died in battle, so they wouldn't have to undergo the humiliation of seeing him put to trial for all the shame that he's done for his people, And then it's at this point when Blaze leads him away to be locked up, and as soon as they close the door, you hear this big crash. They're like, "Oh no, what happened?" And they run out there, and Blaze is like, "Oh, it looks like he tried to escape and he fell down the stairs and he broke his neck." And then the rest of the crew that was there with Blaze is like, "Yeah, that's exactly what happened." And then the general's like, "Yep, that's what happened. We'll talk no more of this." And that's it. And then they go on. So I'm trying to think if there was anything else at the end of the book, but it kind of came to a very quick end there at the end. It was nice because at the end it was kind of decided that Blaze would keep his cool. I didn't mention too, his Constellation class was run by Romulan drives, which is why it could cloak. But now he's going to take his ship, and instead of harassing the Federation shipping lanes, he's going to go harass the Romulan shipping lanes for a bit. So it ends on that good note where Picard is saying, Riker says to him, "Do I detect a note of admiration?" "No, Mr. Riker, certainly not. I do not admire pirates. However, I do appreciate panache." And I thought that was pretty good. So, yeah, Blaze certainly had some panache there. And a fun little story about, like, a pirate. It really kind of came together with an interesting diplomatic solution at the end. So, an unexpected and fun surprise was Blaze of Glory by Simon Hawke. Another fun one. So yeah, that's it. I'm looking forward to jumping into 35. I've decided we will definitely do 3 TNG numbered series and then something else, because these are just like my bread and butter. They're just so good. I eat them up, and I want another one, and I want another one right now. So we are going to jump into. Oh, we got more Romulan stuff. Robert Greenberger's The Romulan Stratagem, coming up soon. Also on the channel, I will be playing more Star Trek Resurgence. Maybe tonight. Maybe later. I don't know. Maybe tomorrow. We'll see. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. As always, live long and prosper. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye.